On the agenda tonight, we're going to be having a listen to Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly, and they're going to be performing a combination of Peace on Earth and Little Drummer Boy. Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus, and welcome to another analysis video. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. So, something a little bit different for tonight, because we recently looked at David Bowie, of course, with Bing Crosby, doing this performance, and we have Will and John here doing a comedy version of it. But when I say that, it's not really a comedy version of it, but you'll see that when we get into it. And also here in the UK, we don't have whichever show this came from originally. I think it might have been a Saturday Night Live thing, but we don't get that here. So I only saw this a few weeks ago, but I did find it very entertaining. And what stood out to me is how authentic this performance is. And we are going to not watch the video the whole way through because it's 5.5 minutes, maybe a bit longer than that. But all of the intro to the video, if you've seen the original that they're basing this on, they are doing it exactly how it was done with David and Bing, which I think is great, because I was thinking how you would do a comedy version of this performance, because it's not really possible when you're doing a version of a good video already, and you might get a bit of a backlash if you start taking the mickey out of David and Bing. In the original video, Bing grabs David's arm to lead him through to the other room, and then when it cuts to the next shot, he's not holding his arm anymore, and that happened in the original video, and that's exactly what they've done in this video. So when I say about the detail that they've included, that they've watched the previous one through and copied it perfectly, and I mean, you'll be able to hear some of the accents are quite funny as well, especially Will Ferrell's accent, because it is so good, but it's kind of really English and a little bit more English than David's voice, so it works that way. But let's have a listen.
Well, right or wrong, I sing either way.
Well, I sing too.
Oh, good. What kind of singing?
Most of the contemporary stuff. Do you like modern music?
Oh, I think it's marvelous. Some of it really fine. But tell me, do you ever listen to any of the older fellas?
Oh yeah, sure. I like John Lennon, and the other one with the Harry Nilsson.
Oh, you go back that far, huh?
Yeah.
So anyway, I mean, it is uncanny, the likeness of Will to David. This has been recorded and they're obviously miming to it, but I just want to jump into the quality of the vocals here, but let's have a listen.
Come, they told me, pa-rum-pum-pum-pum, our newborn king to see, pa-rum-pum-pum-pum. Our finest gifts we bring, pa-rum-pum-pum-pum, rum-pum-pum-pum, rum-pum-pum-pum. Peace on earth, can it be? Years from now, perhaps we'll see the day of glory. See the day.
So I'm just going to jump in here. As always, there's a link in the description below. If you guys want to watch this without me interrupting it or talking over it, then you can click on that link. And I do suggest that you watch both of the videos, and you can watch my previous analysis that I did on the original version of this performance with Bing and David. But what I want to point out on the pitch monitoring software, of course, I've isolated the vocals and run them through this so we can look at it. Because we have two voices going on, obviously it can't pick out each voice individually yet clearly, and that's something to do with the AI. It's not quite developed to that point yet, but I'm sure it will happen in the future. But this kind of thing, the C4, what we've got with Will and John is that they are really accurate pitch-wise. And this is the thing about trying to do a comedy version of already a great performance. Normally, you can only really do a comedy version of a performance that everyone thinks is bad in the first place. So then people make it even worse and kind of take the mickey out of it, and then that's where the comedy comes in. But with this original performance, you can't really make it funny because it wasn't funny in the first place. It was just a great performance. So I love the way that Will and John have just tried to do it as well as possible. This is the other thing, that it's not even heavily pitch corrected. This is Will and John trying to sing as best they can, and they have solid voices. They've both got vibrato. This is something that you can't put in with pitch correction or auto-tune. You can't put in the control of a note with vibrato. So when I take this back, now the notes do come in, not at the right hand side of the screen where we usually have it, because I wanted to have the video in the background so at least you guys could see how accurately they've portrayed the video part of it. But the audio here, when we go back and listen to this C4, so we just caught the end of it there, the or E, and it has that wobble of vibrato on it, and that's Will just controlling his voice. The other interesting thing is that as soon as Will starts singing, you get an appreciation of David Bowie's voice and how unique it was with his vibrato, because with Will's vibrato, it's consistent, but it's not as dramatic.
Peace on earth.
So there's a little wobble, but the vibrato, importantly, is happening below the note. Like that. So I just did it slowly and then sped it up. But David's vibrato, he would go, peace on earth, and he would go above the note. Can it be? And you get that kind of more dramatic wobble to it. So by hearing somebody else sing it as authentically as they can, it shows you the huge difference in just what vibrato can do and how much pitch is covered, the frequency of the vibrato. It just makes it sound totally different, even though they're hitting the same note. So, of course, we've got John supplying the lower line of Little Drummer Boy and Will singing the higher parts of Peace on Earth. But the great thing about John's voice, I mean, they've both got a really nice sound, and John's voice being the lower voice, of course, that's got to have a bass-like quality to it. It's got to be full, and it certainly is. Let's have a listen.
The finest gifts we bring, pa-rum-pa-pum-pum, rum-pa-pum-pum, rum-pa-pum-pum.
See there, he's down he's down at A2 for the bottom line. So, I mean, if that note wasn't really full, it could go down too low for his voice. But, I mean, we haven't got any super high notes here. Even though Will is hitting that higher line, we're not at the top end of the male tenor range, for example. So let's listen on.
Peace on earth, can it be?
And there, I mean, Will's voice is actually quite nice tone-wise. He's got this blend of chest voice and head voice, because he's not just staying in chest voice, he's not just staying in head voice. When he goes up to this, what is an F4, we can't see it on the screen, but that's the note that he's hitting here. This, can it be? He's keeping it in a really nice, even place, not kind of overdoing it, not underdoing it, and not keeping it too much in good. If you did too much of that, too much chest voice, it starts to almost step on the lower line, because we've got a really full note down there, but going, can it be? By keeping it lighter, you now get that definite contrast between the two voices. So it's just really well placed from a resonance perspective when we're talking about the vocals, but just the way that the tones are produced through the resonance of Will allowing it to go up to to that place rather than and being too over the top with it. When he gets lower down, and going to John's part, which is a lot lower down, because of the difference in the sound of the voices, that's why you get more of a dramatic difference between the two. And to give an example of that, when I went and sang like that, if I went and sang the same note without the body, it now sounds higher. So this is the point, that it's all about where it's resonating as to how high or how low it sounds. You can have some actually really high notes that, you know, tenors hit in chest voice, and they sound like they're lower notes until you try and do it yourself and then realise, whoa, that, you know, yeah, that's a C5 or, you know, an A4 or a G4. So, yeah, a lot of it is about the tone and the sound of the note, and especially with this performance, you want the higher notes to sound higher and the lower notes to sound lower. And like I said, this hasn't been heavily pitch corrected, because you'd be able to hear that straight away. This is as close as they can get it. Obviously, they're not doing this all in one take and it's live, but even still, it's impressive.
Will come true for my child and your child too. He'll see the day of glory. See the day when men of goodwill live in peace again.
And another tiny detail there is that Will says again, and that's something that I mentioned in that original video, how it just stands out, just because I say again, and I'm English as well. But levels of detail in this are astounding. You can tell that Will and John have huge respect for that original performance, and obviously for David and Bing, and they want to try and do it as closely as they can. Obviously there's a little bit of overacting, but that's because it's supposed to be a take on the performance, but in terms of the musical quality of it, it's just great.
He smiled at me,
and there, you know, right at the end we get John's voice. Look at the D sharp 3 and this vibrato again. These guys have got the ability to sing, and it just reminds me of a video that I did recently on Tenacious D and talking about the quality of musicianship that's actually in there, and the way that it might fly under people's radars because they see it as more of a comedy thing. There's loads of vocal technique here. It's by no means a performance by two comedians who can't sing. They've definitely got ability.
Can it be? Can it be?
And there we have it. So now right at the end we get the little bit of comedy, and because the performance has been done really authentically, this is great because this is when you can put in the comedy, because now it's not taking anything away from that original or making fun of it in any way, because they don't do that at the end.
Oh, that's a pretty little thing, isn't it?
Very nice.
All right, Bobby. You have a Merry Christmas.
It's Bowie. It's David Bowie.
And it's Bing Crosby, pal.
And there we have it. Obviously with Will and John, their facial expressions and just the way that they hold themselves and their eye contact with each other and those kinds of things, they can make it light-hearted and put that comedy element in that way. But, I mean, they're much too intelligent to start messing with the original performance and try and make that funny, because I don't think that would have worked in any way. So, yeah, it's entertaining video, really well placed comedy, but as I said, a bit of a fun one for tonight, just getting ourselves firmly in that Christmas spirit, as Christmas is not very far away at all. But I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and if you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. As always, let me know what you guys think, and I'll catch you guys at the next one. Rock!